all three, conceal your intentions. This video will be rather boring, but it will teach you a lot about power. This is the third law of the 48 laws of power. And let me just read you the intro. You'll probably learn 90% about this law by just watching this video. So let me read you the intro. Keep people off balance and in the dark by never revealing the purpose behind your actions. If they have no clue what you're up to, they cannot prepare a defense. Guide them far enough down the wrong path. Envelop them in enough smoke, and by the time they realize your intentions, it'll be too late. And first off, the opposite is happening in society. Look, they tell each other, we talk to each other in school. Oh, what's your plans about the future? What do you think of the future? What do you think? What's your thought on this? What's your intention in life? Just fix the camera right here. Perfect. All right. So here's one thing you can do to conceal your intentions. Use false sincerity. Send ambiguous signals to set up misleading objects of desire, unable to distinguish the genuine from the false. They cannot pick up your real goal. People have a hard time. People think they have a really good lie detector, but the truth is, most people don't. I don't. You don't. No one does. So if you set up false goals, it's hard for people to distinguish those goals from your real goals. So the first part of this is about seduction and a male trying to win over a female. So he was being coached to not have his intentions clear by his coach. And the thing that happened is that when he was finally alone with her and she's been chasing him because he'd been sending out fake signals and all of these different routes. So what happened when he actually tried to um, take action on his own? Let me just read you this. This time acting on his own impulse, rather than following Nina's instructions, he took the countess, and that's the female, hands and told her he was in love with her. The young woman seemed confused, and look, so she had been really in love with him because he had been sending out all of these different signals. A reaction he did not expect. She became polite, then excused herself. For the rest of the evening, she avoided his eyes, was not there to say good night to him. So she basically just rejected him because he actually revealed his intentions and he didn't conceal them. Everything in seduction, however, depends on suggestion. You cannot announce your intentions or reveal them directly in words. Instead, you must throw your targets off the scent. You have to scramble your signals, appear interested in another man or woman, the decoy, then hint at being interested in the target, fine, indifference, on and on. Such patterns not only confuse but excite. When the coach was coaching this man, um, he told him to do all of these different things and he had to be with all other women so that he seemed of higher value. So here's what happened. His moves intrigued her, each of them keeping her waiting for the next one. She even enjoyed her jealousy and confusion, for sometimes any emotion is better than the boredom of security. I think that makes sense, right? The moment that Marcus uttered the fatal word love, and this was the man who was trying to seduce this female. It sounds weird when I'm saying it. However, all was changed. This was no longer a game with moves. It was an artless show of passion. His intentions was revealed. He was seducing her. This put everything he had done in a new light. All that before had been charming now seemed ugly and convening. So now next chapter of this. So there's this man called Otto von Bismarck from 1850, and he wanted to capture Austria, and he was from Prussia, which is a part of Germany. And people they wanted um, Otto von Bismarck to capture um, Austria. And so what did was, um, let me just read this. Throughout his career, Bismarck had been a loyal, even passionate supporter of Prussian might and power. He dreamed of German unification, of going to war against Austria, and humiliating the country that for so long had kept Germany divided. A former soldier, he saw power as a glorious business. So he came with a massive speech about him wanting peace, and because he came up with that speech, he eventually got to be the head general of the army. And he knew that beforehand that the army was too weak, and the Austria did not expect, Austria did not expect that von Bismarck would attack them now because he came up with this peace speech. But yeah, then eventually he got to a role where he could attack Austria. Bismarck made several calculations. First, he sensed that the Prussian military, which has not kept pace with other European armies, was unready for war. But as it turned out, a whole country was fooled. It was because of Bismarck's speech that the king made him a minister, a position from which he quickly rose to a prime minister, attaining the power to strengthen the Prussian military and accomplish what he had wanted all along. Most people are open books. They say what they feel, blurt out their opinions at every opportunity, and constantly reveal their plans and intentions. Okay, so we're in a new position now because my sister thought that now would be a good time to cook some food, so. Yeah, okay. Let's just keep going. First, it is easy and natural to always want to talk about one's feelings and plans for the future. Second, many believe that by being honest and open, they are winning people's hearts and showing their good nature. Your honesty is likely to offend people. It is much more prudent to tailor your words, telling people what they want to hear. Now, I'm not just reading everything. This is like, I'm cutting all the yapping in, but you obviously will get more out of the book if you just order it. Now, our first instinct is always to trust appearances. We cannot go around doubting the reality of what we see and hear, constantly imagining that appearances conceal something else would exhaust and terrify us. Simply dangle an opinion you seem to desire, a goal you seem to aim for. A tactic that is often effective in setting up a red herring is to appear to support an idea or cause that is actually contrary to your own sentiments. So now here is a war strategy that the Spanish leader, Duke of Marlborough. No, he was head of the English army. Sorry. Head of the English army. So what he did was he captured a fort, and then he brought his army to the fort to protect it, and that made his opponent think that he needed it for some reason. So they destroyed it, and then when they had their focus on destroying the fort, he could go into the country, something like that. Let me read you this. Use this tactic in the following manner. Hide your intentions not by closing up, but by talking endlessly about your desires and goals, not your real ones. You'll kill 3 birds with 1 stone. You appear friendly, open and trusting. You conceal your intentions, and you send your rivals on a time-consuming
wild goose chase. Sincerity is a tricky tool. Appear over-passionate and you raise suspicions. Now, Napoleon's minister Talleyrand was a master at taking people into his confidence by revealing some apparent secret. Okay, so this is one of the histories that I'm very excited about. This was so there's this rich guy. He had about $1 million in 1910, and that's it's 33. So that's about 33 million in today's money. So he had a lot of money, right? And he loved the business, the deal making, all of this stuff. And he was selling houses, and he was selling a house for $8,000. And so there was this guy who came in, and he said to him he only had to put down a $2,000 down payment. And then he was like, I'm gonna think about it. So then he came back the next day, and he was like, I'm gonna put down the $8,000 right away, but I need a few days. That made the rich man curious. So he was asking about how he came to it, and the guy who was very, he didn't want to say it, and so he kept pushing, and so he told him he was going to sell. His uncle were friends with some rich people, and he wanted revenge on them, and they told him he could just sell a farm for as much as he could. So he was gonna sell it to someone, and he was gonna make the money by finding someone who he could sell it to for cheap, and then they could turn it around and make a massive profit on it, because and it was about, they were gonna sell the farm for about $35,000 in 1910, and that is equivalent to $266,000 today. So they were gonna sell it for quite a lot, but they were gonna turn it around and sell it for $135,000, which is a lot more. And he wanted in on the cash because he loved the deal making. So, but he was actually hiding his intentions, and I'll tell you in a little bit what his actual intentions were. Like the guy who was gonna buy the house. So, when they came there, they were talking some business with these rich people, right? And there were some boxers there, and they bet that they could box and that they could make a lot of money. So the guy who was gonna buy the house, he made a deal with them for $35,000, which is now $266,000. And no, 35,000 is $1,166,000. It's the 8,000, which is 266,000. So with 35,000, that's what they sold it for, 1.166 million. And they told the rich guy that they could fix the match and pay the other boxer to lose on purpose. And what they did was, when they actually came to the match, they actually killed one of the boxers. He was punched really hard in the face, and blood spurted out of his mouth, and he was laying there, and a doctor declared him dead. So the rich guy, he just went out. He just had to go out of there. So the 35,000, which is now 1.166 million, he just left it there to go out, because having a chance at going to prison was not worth it. But as it turned out, he was not actually dead. Everything was a scene. To buying the market and to buying the farm, it was all just a setup, because he concealed his intentions. His intention was not to buy the house at all or sell the farm, it was the boxing match. But if he just went in and tried to make him invest in the boxing match, it would never happen. So yeah, okay, let me just read this. Terrified, Giesel, that's a rich man, hightailed it out of the gym and back to Chicago, leaving behind 35,000, which he was only too glad to forget, for it seemed a small price to pay to avoid being implicated in a crime. He never wanted to see Whale, that was the guy who was trying to buy the house, or any of the others again. And the yellow kid was the guy who was going to buy the house, and Whale was one of the other people who was in the scheme. So the yellow kid who staked out Giesel as the perfect sucker long before he set up the con. He knew the boxing scam would be the perfect rouse to separate Giesel from his money quickly and definitive. and definitively. But he also knew that if he had begun by trying to interest Giesel in the boxing match, he would have failed miserably. Learn from the Yellow Kid. The familiar, inconspicuous front is the perfect smokescreen. Approach your mark with an idea that seems ordinary enough. A business deal, financial intrigue. The sucker's mind is distracted. His suspicions is allayed. That is when you gently guide him onto the second path, the slippery slope, down which he slides helplessly into your trap. Alright. There's not much happening on these other pages here, so let's just go slip through that. Once you've lulled your sucker's attention with the familiar, they will not notice the deception between perpetrated behind their... Okay, let me just tell you the story real quick also. So, it's gonna be too long, it doesn't have that much room. Remember, it takes patience and humility to dull your brilliant colors, to put on a mask of the inconspicuous. Do not despair at having to wear such a bland mask. It is often your unreadability that draws people to you and makes you appear a person of power. Okay, here's just the intro of the rehearsal. Rehearsal. No smokescreen, red herring, false sincerity, or any other diversionary device will succeed in concealing your intentions if you already have an established reputation for deception. There is a little more, but this was a very, very long law, so that's it for this video. See you guys in the next one. Peace.